What's going on? I'm back. I know it's been a while, but today we got the Galaxy S26 Ultra, and I can say I wasn't too excited about this after watching it unpack, but taking a closer look, this may be one of the biggest Ultra upgrades in a while. They took a little different approach, but I think this phone has a lot to offer, so I'm ready to jump in. So let's get into this unboxing. I did go with the silver shadow. I had the black last year, so I was like, let's switch it up and get one of the online exclusive colors. But yeah, it's the Ultra, it's the box. Nothing special to see here. Let's open it up, see what we got. Listen, I would never get tired of opening phones. All right, let's see what we got in this part. Same old, same old. USB-C to USB-C, charging cable, not braided. Got some books. SIM card ejection tool. Oh, let's finish peeling off the plastic. Yeah, still got our flat size. Okay, my S Pen. We still got the S Pen. Matching colors. All right. Still got the buttons on the side. Power button, volume rocker. SIM card tray, USB-C. Feels good. I actually like the silver color. I mean, I'm not this new camera. I mean, it's the same camera layout, but now it has this additional hump to it. But it looks pretty good. See right here, this is pretty much the island on the S25. Just, I guess, the camera island. And this one got like the camera bump. I mean, overall, it's still the same look and feel. The phone is actually thinner and lighter. Oh, I could tell the weight difference. Oh, it also no longer has a titanium frame, using aluminum frame now, which adds to the weight difference. A few grams lighter, but it definitely feels different in the hands. Oh man, it feels a lot different in the hands. Now I'm just kind of feeling it. The phone almost like exactly the same dimensions, but it's just a tad bit thinner. I got a lot of opinions on this phone. A lot of opinions. So we're going to talk about it. Well, let me get this thing set up and then I'll be right back. First thing you want to talk about is the cameras. The cameras do seem like it's the same exact camera setup, but there are some, I would say, big differences when we talk about the physical hardware of the camera. We still have the same 200 megapixel wide camera, the same 10 megapixel telephoto, 50 megapixel 5x zoom camera, and all of them seems like it's the same when you're just looking at it, but most of them did receive a boost in aperture. And what that means is they will take in a lot more light. That means you're getting way better nighttime pictures, nighttime video, as well as you'll get a more naturally blurred background, which you're not having to go to portrait mode. So I did a couple test shots and the pictures do seem like they look a little more natural compared to the S25. Let's get into this display. Form factor wise, it's the same. Technically, it's the same kind of, but we still have a 6.9-inch display, still 120 hertz, LTPO AMOLED display, 1440p. It maintains the same 2600 nits of brightness, still has the anti-reflective coating. It actually looks like anti-reflectiveness is still pretty good on both, so that's glad to see that. We all know that there's a big change with now we have the privacy screen, but I'm going to jump into that in a second. But first, let's kind of finish running through the specs. We have the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, also have One UI 8.5, so we are getting a lot of the Pixel exclusive features are not coming over. A little bit of a design change with the UI, and I'm liking it so far. The little small design changes, UI design changes. We still have 5,000 milliamp battery, but there's a huge but here. We finally got 60 watts charging. Last year we had 45 watts. The year before that, I think it was 45 watts. It's been at like 30 watts forever. And I've been complaining about the charging speeds of all Samsung devices for the longest. But now we got 60 watts. So we got 60 watts wired charging, but we not only do we have 60 watts wired charging, we have 25 watts wireless charging. What we don't have is the magnets. And I was planning on coming to this video and snapping about not having the magnets. But I did look into why we don't have the magnets, because I probably would have bet my house that the S26 Ultra would have had the magnets, especially since Google came out with this Pixel lineup. The whole entire Pixel 10 lineup has magnets. So I'm just like, first of all, how you beat Samsung to the magnets? And Samsung come out with another phone after that and still don't have the magnets. So I was completely baffled about what the hell is going on here. So did a little research. What Samsung claim, I'm going to quote unquote claim, is that having the magnets in the phone itself will interfere with the old S Pen. That's the thing. They said air gestures, all of that stuff will not work correctly with the magnets built in. It makes sense. But then here's the thing where my little conspiracy theory light starts flashing, is they also came out with their own magnetic cases. And then they claim that third-party magnetic cases will interfere with the S Pen as well. I'm like, wait a minute. I've had magnetic cases on all of my notes for at least the last couple years and never had that problem. Never seen any notices, never seen anything. S Pen's always worked fine. So all of a sudden now you came up with your own magnetic cases. You choose not to put the magnets in the phone. All of a sudden the magnets interfere with S Pen. But you know, it is what it is. But they said their magnetic cases have a special layer to block the magnetic interference. Well, I hear them. I did get a case. I've been going with this brand for some time now, but I haven't tried it out yet. But I'm pretty sure it's going to work just fine, because all of my other cases that I've got from them have worked just fine, especially with the Note. Oh, it's cool. They gave me some options with the buttons. I'll link this case in there too. This is been my go-to brand. I used to be Spigen heavy, but I don't know, ever since this brand came out with this, it's like a little thing to fidget with. But I kind of really like this case. This is magnetic. It's used as a phone stand. But anyway, let's get back to the point. The point here is to see if I'm going to get any kind of warning using this case. I better not. So I feel like Samsung's pulling a stunt if I am getting a notice. Oh, this case looks so nice. Let me take a second to admire how nice this case looks. All right, S Pen. Let's try the S Pen out. Oh, it's kind of hard to pull it out with this case. Oh, no warning. Maybe that warning is coming from maybe some cheaper brands are putting the magnet directly on the phone. But so far, I'm not seeing any issues with writing at the moment. If no, I don't know what. Yeah. I'm not seeing any issues, no notices. So guess what? This case is solid. It works. But they said there are some cases that they say they give a notice that there's some kind of magnetic interference with the S Pen. Been talking about this for a little while now. But I thought to myself, Joe, would you rather have the magnets or would you rather have the S Pen? Like, they came out with the S26 Ultra and said, hey, we removed the S Pen to give the magnets, add the magnets, because they both can't work together. I probably would be upset, because Ultra is not the Ultra without the S Pen. It's not the Note without the Note. I mean, it's still the Note, but we call it Ultra now. And you can always put a case on it to get the magnets. I still prefer to have everything, because the Note, the Ultra, it's the everything phone. Samsung throws every single feature it can possibly think at the Ultra. So yes, I want it all. Clearly, Samsung taking a different direction this year with not putting the top of the line specs in everything. And I would honestly say that, yeah, just give me the S Pen. I'll put the case on. Hopefully Samsung figured it out because I like to rock my phones raw. Don't like them cases. Just give it to me raw. Moving on to the actual real hardware improvement this year is the privacy screen. Now, during Unpacked and they announced the privacy screen, I was like, damn, that is really cool. But man, the screen resolution and brightness is gonna take a hit. Like just hearing them break down explanation how this works, I was like, man, I am not gonna like this. I am really not gonna like this. I'm what they call a pixel peeper, and I can tell the difference between 1080p, 4K, 1 hertz, 120 hertz, 6 hertz. Like I immediately can tell. So I was like, but I'm gonna hold off judgment till I get the phone myself and try it out. My suspicion was confirmed. With it off, I can't really tell any difference between the screen resolution, brightness. It all seems normal. I'm not really telling anything. But once you turn the privacy screen on, you do see a difference, especially if you have kind of two modes. You could turn it on, and then you could also turn on the maximum privacy, and it works incredibly well. Like I am shocked, but you can immediately notice that the colors are super washed out when you have it in the max privacy mode. Like it works really good. You turn off the max privacy mode, the screen looks a little bit more natural. It's a much dimmer display with just the normal privacy mode on, and it still works not as great as the maximum privacy, but it still works good enough to where like at angles, its screen gets dramatically darker. For me personally, I won't use the privacy mode like in a full screen way. What I have done so far is use it in the conditions for turning it on, which means I only turn it on for like notifications. I probably will turn it on for certain apps, so maybe like the texting apps or the banking apps. So like really cool, you could turn it off for those specific use cases. But for like everyday use, I like it so far with just blocking out the notifications. And I'm trying to pick and choose what apps I want to turn it on for like a full screen. Super useful. Just for personally me, I won't use it over the entire screen 100% of the time because I would rather have the screen resolution and the extra brightness rather than having that privacy. So I'm glad Samsung was able to implement this in a way where you can use it specifically just for certain apps and notifications. Another like low key under the hood improvement with a new processor, we now have increasing performance in CPU, GPU, and NPU, which pretty much means you'll get a much better performance with AI running locally. So with that comes with bringing a lot of those cool Pixel features like Magic Q, which Samsung is calling Now Nudge, and it pretty much takes things that's going on your phone into context and present to you helpful suggestions based off of like something you're typing in text. Like someone texts you, hey, give me someone's phone number, it will automatically suggest that phone number to add to that conversation. Audio Eraser now is pretty cool. Something not even the Pixel is doing. Normally you can have a video in your camera roll, Photos app, whatever, and then edit that video and remove all the background noise. With all the new upgrades to the processor, GPU, NPU, what Samsung is able to do now is apps like Instagram, YouTube. If they have a lot of noisy backgrounds, what's going on, there is a feature to where while you're playing a video, you now have this at the top where it says Audio Eraser. So like live in action, you're watching a video and you can erase the background all on device, all live in real time. Another hidden improvement is APV codec. This is Samsung's own lossless compression format developed by Samsung, got certified by Samsung. It's the first phone to have it. It's supported in Android 16, so you should be able to technically use this on other Android phones. When you shoot in raw video, it's a lossless compression format that allows you to edit those videos on your computer or whatever and do color grade and all that. So For people that does content creation and they only use their phone, they'll be able to produce a higher quality video on their phone by having this new APV codec, or if you use an iPhone, using ProRes. And also offers 12-bit color, so you'll be able to push those colors when you're doing the color grade and all that stuff. So people who do that on their phones and not just pull out the camera and just use the default mode, and they want to take their video quality to the next level, even though you're filming on the phone, horizontal lock. I actually thought this was going to be a gimmick, but I tried it out just a little bit. And horizontal lock is when you're recording a video. Say you're recording a video, you can just like rotate your phone, do all kind of stuff, and it would stay like right there locked in. They demoed the hell out of it, so I don't think I need a demo right now on the camera. But I'm going to really test it out when I do my full review. But I think that's like a super cool feature, which you normally only see on like 360 cameras, action cameras. So for Samsung to be able to pull this off on your phone, like, why do I even need an action camera anymore? When you're able to hold in that horizontal light, that is crazy cool feature. And then everyone's probably the feature that most people are going crazy about more than the privacy screen. So though we didn't get any big hardware changes, I still think this is a worthy upgrade. Like I said, so many things have changed, so I got to take some time to do the full review, if I ever do it. My track record is terrible. Anyway, this is kind of like my initial thoughts, and hopefully there'll be more to come. But catch me in the next one. I'm out.